Brie Towers had killed 17 people before breakfast on her 29th birthday. She remembered every face, every last breath. Tonight would be number 18. She sat on the rooftop across from the little corner pharmacy in downtown Seattle, rain sliding down the scope of her rifle like silver tears. The contract had come through the usual encrypted channel. Dr. Chuck Ellison, single shot, make it look like a break-in. Payment already wired. Big Pharma didn't like loose ends, and Chuck had found one they couldn't bury. A cheap plant-based molecule that erased stage 4 tumors in lab mice and last month in 3 human volunteers who weren't supposed to survive the week. But Brie's finger wasn't on the trigger. It hadn't been for 43 minutes. She kept seeing the same memory on loop. A little girl in Lagos 3 jobs ago, clutching her dying mother's hand while Brie waited in the shadows for the father to come home. The mother had whispered, "He's a good man," right before Brie put a bullet through his heart. That night, Brie had thrown up in an airport bathroom and stared at her own reflection until the lights burst out. She was tired of being the cure for someone else's greed. The pharmacy lights were still on. She lowered the rifle, slipped the suppressor into her coat, and crossed the street. The bell above the door gave a cheerful ding. Chuck Ellison looked up from behind the counter, glasses askew, white coat rumpled. He was younger than the file photo, 32, maybe with tired eyes, the color of strong coffee, and a smile that arrived like it had been waiting for her all day. "Late night emergency?" he asked. "Something like that," Brie said, voice softer than she meant. She pretended to scan the cold remedies. "I can't sleep, headaches, the kind that feel like regret." He laughed once, surprised. "I know those," he said. He came around the counter, pulled a small amber bottle from the shelf, and pressed it into her palm. Not a cure, just peace for a few hours, on the house. Their fingers touched. Something electric and stupid happened in her chest. They talked. For 2 hours they talked. About nothing and everything. He told her how the cure had started as a side project for his sister, who had died of glioblastoma at 19. How the formula was simple enough that any village clinic could make it. How 3 men in expensive suits had already offered him 9 figures to bury it. "I told them the world doesn't need another expensive death sentence," he said, shrugging like it was obvious. They smiled like wolves. Brie felt the pistol holstered at the small of her back like a brand. At 2:17 a.m., her encrypted phone vibrated. One line, confirm elimination. She stared at the screen until it went black. Chuck noticed. "You okay?" he asked. She met his eyes. "I was sent here to kill you, Chuck." The words hung between them like smoke. He didn't flinch, he only exhaled, slow and sad, as if he'd been expecting this for weeks. "I figured," he said softly. "You move like someone who's done it before, but you haven't done it tonight." She laughed once, bitter. "I'm having a crisis of conscience. It's very inconvenient." He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell soap and antiseptic and something warm that was just him. "Then don't have one. Have a choice instead." Rain hammered the windows. Somewhere in the city, handlers were already wondering why the dot on the tracking map hadn't moved. Brie closed her eyes. She saw every person she had ever erased. She saw the little girl in Lagos. She saw her own younger self, 19 and broke, and believing the lie that the world was only wolves and prey. She opened her eyes. "I'm not running," she said. "Not anymore. I'm going to burn their house down with them inside it." Chuck's smile was small and fierce. "I make a hell of a distraction." She took the suppressor of her pistol and slid the weapon across the counter to him. "You ever fired one of these before?" "Only in video games," he said. "Good enough." They killed the lights. She called her old handler from Chuck's phone, voice steady as winter steel. "The target's alive. The cure is going public in the morning, and if you or anyone else comes within a mile of him, I will spend the rest of my life making sure you regret it. Consider this my resignation." She hung up before the shouting started. Chuck locked the front door. "So, what now, assassin?" he asked her. Brie looked up at the man who had cured cancer and somehow impossibly cured her. She took his hand. "Now," she said, "we fight like people who have something worth living for." Outside, sirens began to wail in the distance. Too early, too loud. Inside, two people who should never have met stood shoulder to shoulder in the dark, hearts hammering the same reckless rhythm. For the first time in 10 years, Brie Towers wasn't counting down to a kill. She was counting the seconds until she could begin to live.